So this is a video on how to paint Ahriman from the Thousand Suns. So I've got them built and I've got them primed with just normal gray. When I built them, I actually planned for some variability because he can be run on a disc and he can be run loose. So I've actually magnetized the disc, and then that way I can run him on a normal stand or I can run him on the disc. If I'm tapped for points, I can run him just as a leader in the back in his normal 6-inch move. So we have lots of options for him, and it's going to make painting a little easier because now we can access the top surface of the disc as well as the underside of the capes and things like that that we would have a lot more trouble with if we had him permanently mounted like that. So he's primed. What we're going to do is lay down some base coats. So the first thing we're going to do is put a base coat of Screamer Pink on the robes as well as the back of the cape. And then I'm actually also going to take this opportunity to put a layer of ceramite white base on the underside of the cape while I can still access it here. So we'll get started on that and then we'll see how it turns out. So after we finished our layer of Screamer Pink on the coat, on the cloak, and on the robes, as well as the collar, we also added the ceramite, which was on the band, on the tabards, as well as on the underside of the cloak, and we did the warp flame as well. Then we did the warp flame on the bottom of the disc. Afterwards, we added the Retributor armor, and we gave a base coat to pretty much all the helmet, the backpack, the shoulder pads, as well as the staff, and then we did the entire Disc of Tzeentch. So next what we will do is we will take our base of Thousand Suns blue, and we will go over the gloves, the trim on the inside underneath the armor, as well as many of the spaces in the armor between the gold trim. And we'll use a fine detail brush to do that. So we'll meet back here once we've added the Thousand Suns blue. So Ahriman is turning out quite nicely and he's starting to take shape. So we used the Thousand Suns blue base color. And what we did was the shoes, the arms, the shoulder plate, the detail in the armor, both hands, as well as when it came to the disc, the edges, and the trim in here. We'll highlight this again and we'll clean that up after shading. So that took care of our blue. And we're ready now for several shades. So moving the colors over there. We have Agrex's Earth Shade that's going to go over everything that's gold. So first we're going to take the Agrex's Earth Shade and we're just going to go over the entire helmet. In hopes of bringing out some of the detail like so. So I'll pick up any excess. Also going to go over the backpacks and the shoulder plate. The second backpack on the other side. The second shoulder plate. On all 4 of the vents. As well as the staff. that's our Ahriman finish there. The disc itself will also need to be highlighted or shaded. So I'll leave those dry. Then we'll move on to the Tzeentch Violet for the Screamer Pink cloaks. We're trying to put as much of that shade into the recesses as we can. While brushing it off all the highlights. And we'll leave that dry. So Ahriman's coming along quite nicely with his shades. We're still waiting for them to dry. So in the meanwhile, we're going to take a layer of Screaming Skull. And what we're going to do is the horns on the staff, as well as just a little ivory trim in the horns of his helmet. So we'll take a little bit of Screaming Skull there. And just very lightly paint. I could have used Tzeentch dust for this as well, which would have been a good base. But I really wanted to brighten up and make it ivory. We're going to Agrex Earth shade it and then highlight it back with the same color again. And then when it dries, we'll reshade this with Agrex Earth Shade as well. And that should take care of that. So that'll look a little cleaner once we add the shade to it. So he's coming along quite well. So now that the Screaming Skull has dried, we're going to add the Agrex Earth shade to that area as well. Just like that. So now that the Agrex is done there, we do have a few metal pieces, which we're going to touch up now with just the base lead belcher. So these spots in particular are the coils at the shoulder pieces here, as well as the hoses on the backpack here, here, down there, and there. And then the shoulder coils right here. The book on the side, we're going to base coat with Incubi Darkness. And then we'll probably give it some gold trim with the Retributor Armor base that we've been using previously. So we'll do that and we'll show you what it looks like in a moment. Alright, so we used the Retributor Armor here. And what we did was we trimmed the spell book here. And that's over the top of the Incubi Darkness. Now I also took a little bit of that Screaming Skull that we used earlier, and I passed it right down carefully through the inside here to make the pages of the book. And while I was at it, I took the opportunity to do the holster on the other side with the base of Rhinox Hide Brown. And with that we did the holster as well as the leather band that holds everything, and then Retribute Armor, the holders for each one. Now we Screaming Skulled this skull earlier. I didn't notice there was a second one here, so I'm going to get that one once this dries, and then we'll Agrax Earth Shade over that. And then most of our shades will be done with the exception of the Warp Flame, which we are going to Goella Green shade in a few minutes. So that's probably the next thing we'll do now. So we're going to do that Corellia green shade here. I want to do it on straight out of the bottle on all of this Warp Flame. So, and it's going on inconsistently, so it'll have light and dark patches, which is exactly what we want for our flame. We're going to do the same thing with the flame on the underside of the disc here. We get pool in the bottom. Just like that. Now before that flame dries, what we're going to use is Moot Green, very, very watered down until it's almost a wash. And we're going to do the tips of that Warp Flame. And if it's still wet, it's easy to blend. So you get sort of that sort of appearance there. And then same on the Warp Flame underneath the disc. We want all the edges. Like so. So we'll let those dry for now. So the last shade we're going to do is a Nuln Oil shade over just the pipeworks that we had earlier. Just like that. And then we'll bring that highlight out later. Same as on the backpack here. And then we're also going to put a little bit on the tabards. Like so, and the waistband. Just add a little bit of detail in there. And the holster of the gun. So that does everything that we had metal. And then after that, we'll start highlighting and bringing the brighter colors back out. We'll leave this to dry for now. So it's time to start bringing some colors back out because we've really shaded this down nicely. So the first thing we're going to do is we'll start with the disc. And we're going to basically just take more of the Retributor armor and we're going to bring those colors back up with it. And we've got the shade in place. And as you can see, that's brightening up really nicely. Just a highlight layer across the top, like so, and that looks a lot nicer. We're not going to worry too much about the blades because we have a different color in mind for those anyway. So that really does pop out the disc a little bit. Now for Ahriman, we're going to do the exact same thing. With our fine detail brush, we're just going to bring some of that color back out that we buried in there earlier. You can see between the two antlers or horns here, you can definitely see the difference between the one that was redone and the one that wasn't. And we're just looking to lighten that gold back up again. Be careful not to cross over our ivory. So I'm going to brighten up those backpack sponsons as well here. Not paying too much attention to the orbs because we are also going to put those a different color. And the staff as well here. And we'll really brighten that up as well. brighten that up too. So after we're finished with the Retributor armor, what we're going to do is a very nice dry brush of Sigmarite to really brighten up that gold as well. Like so. And we're going to do the same thing for just the areas So Ahriman is brightening up very nicely. What we're going to do now is take Screamer Pink again and just go over the highlights on the cloaks, leaving the darker recesses shaded as we'd like it to be. So just going to hit the highlights like so. That's just to lighten up the cloaks again. Ahriman's coming along quite nicely now. We've highlighted with the Screamer Pink, and we've taken the Screaming Skull and just cleaned up over some of the white again. So that makes another coat there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the properly apt Ahriman blue and just touch up some of the blue trim in the inside, and then sort of brighten up some of that blue as well. And then what we're going to do is take some Stormhost Silver and color each of these orbs with the Stormhost Silver, as well as the swirl pattern in the base. And then finally we're going to take that same Stormhost Silver and do each of the blades, the large blades, on the disc as well, just to give us a two-tone color look there. And then we'll be back in a few minutes. So what we just finished was the Stormhost Silver, and as you can see, we've done the bulbs on the back, as well as each of the blades of the disc and the central swirl pattern as well. We also did each of these little balls in Stormhost Silver, which we're going to turn into gemstones, with the technical glow paints once we do those. So I also did the eye on the staff, as well as this hang down crystal gem thing, and then the eye on the other side, the shoulder eye, and then the one dead center on the back here. So each of those are going to turn into a gem. And then we finish the Ahriman blue to light up the current blues that are there. So we're going to do the gems now, and then we'll move on from there. So the three paints we're going to use are Spirit Stone Red, Soulstone Blue, and Waystone Green. These are all technical Games Workshop paints. And the way they're used, we take a little bit of, say, Waystone Green, because we're going to want a green gem here. And then what we're going to do is just overcoat it over that Stormhost Silver to get a very shiny gem like so. I think what we'll do is add a couple more on either side of the front armor pad, like that. And then once it dries, you can do a second coat if you want a really rich color. Just like that. So there's our Ahriman now. What we did for the eyes is just Stormhost Silver and then overlaid the Waywatcher green, the Waystone green, to make a glowing eye. Basically just created some eye gems. So now that's pretty much the finished Ahriman. The disc base just needs to be painted black, and then some flock sand on it, and then our model is finished. So we'll show you the final model in a few minutes. So here we have the finished model, all based and set up, and as you can see, it looks pretty exciting. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was a big help. And if you liked it, feel free to like the video, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, and tune in for the next video that we do when we paint another interesting unit.